Okay, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you to Jason for setting this up. I feel like I finally get to answer the question, how is China? So as some of you may know, this past summer I studied abroad in Chengdu, China. I was there for 3 months, and I was studying at a university there, taking classes to finish my Chinese minor. And so while I was abroad, I experienced like a lot of different challenges and things that I learned and lessons that I learned that I feel like could relate to any of you all, no matter what stage of life that you're in. And so I remember my experience with Chinese, it started in high school. So I was really interested in learning the language, and I continued it while at UF. And when I went to Chengdu, it was kind of a rough couple of first weeks. I experienced a lot of different setbacks that were different from things that I was used to in the United States. So for one, when I got to my dorm room, there was no air conditioning, no Wi-Fi. When I went to the grocery store, I had to buy my own bags, and it was just things that I wasn't really used to. And so these challenges kind of continued into this type of attitude that I started having, which really wasn't the best attitude to start out. And I was feeling a little bit doubtful as well, especially with my speaking abilities. And considering the fact that I had studied Chinese for 5 years, speaking was something that was incredibly difficult for me when I got there. I didn't really know how to respond to people. I would say hi, and then they would say something, and then I would just look at them, and then I realized there was a question, and I couldn't say anything. And so throughout that whole time, I just knew that I had to change this attitude and adapt right away. So I kept this little journal with me, and I wrote down different experiences that I had and how to be intentional with my goals going forward, and that I wanted to be conversational by the end. So one of the things I wrote in my journal, which kind of changed my whole view of study abroad, was the fact that you're never really going to fit in, no matter how hard you try. I think one thing is just convincing yourself that you do. So just putting yourself in that mindset of that, trusting in your abilities. And so the big lesson that I learned is replacing that doubt that you have with trust. And so no matter what you're going through in life, any doubts that you have, I think it's impactful, and you can get the results that you want if you just change your attitude, be intentional about it, and then put action to what you do. So when I started making that goal of speaking to at least one person every day, I ended up having some pretty neat opportunities. So this one time I was walking with my friend, and we were walking into this mall. It was like a giant square in Chengdu, and it's called Chengdu Road. And we were approached by these 2 teenage girls, and they said, "Would you want to talk to us?" And my friend just sort of looked at me like, "No, we shouldn't do this." She's actually sitting right there. But I was like, "No, we should. I really wanted to work on my speaking." So next thing you know, we're following these 2 girls, and we see a guy with a camera. And then I was like, "Oh no, this is not going to be good. What have we gotten ourselves into?" And what ended up happening was we ended up being interviewed for a beauty commercial. And the 2 girls started asking us about things about beauty and where we come from and different questions like that. But what I realized looking back is I don't think that would have happened if I didn't take that step and put myself out there in the first place. So that was just something that was really interesting, and something that was really impactful that came out of that experience. And so I think the second big lesson that I learned is also the importance of relationships. One of the things I learned is that you meet the best people in the shortest amount of time. And I remember my host family, they took us to this lake, and I have a picture of it right here. And we just spent the whole day with them, and we just sat around and enjoyed the scenery. And that was something that I wasn't really used to back home. I didn't really take the time to just sit back and relax and appreciate where I was in the moment. And even the dad turned to me in Chinese, and he asked, "Is this normal for you? Is this what you do in the United States?" And I just said, "No, I've never done this before." So that was definitely a really memorable moment for me. And another memorable moment with relationships is I got to meet these Russian students. And yes, when you think I go to China, I meet Chinese people, but I also ended up meeting Russian students as well. And this was really important to me because for me, Russian culture is a big part of my life. My mom taught me Russian from a young age, and all I would do was speak in the house. I never really had the chance to meet other people my age and be able to talk to them. And so when I met these people, I think it just really reminded me that even though you meet people in a short amount of time, there are those people that you meet in life that really remind you of who you are and where you come from. And so that was another big lesson that I learned. And to sum it all up, my overall view of China, the people there were just generally so kind, and they were so hospitable. Just being able to take my friend and I to lunch and just enjoy the scenery up into the mountains, even though it was an hour away from campus and we spent the whole day there. It was just very sweet of them to do, and they were also patient with even wanting to help us speak and wanting to help us get better. And so this last quote that I have up here, I actually came across it when I was studying abroad, and I think it just sums up my whole experience. And it's by Anthony Bourdain, and it says that travel isn't always pretty, it isn't always comfortable, sometimes it hurts, it even breaks your heart, but that's okay, the journey changes you. And so throughout all these lessons, I hope that you might have gained something from it, something that you can apply to your own life. And for me, I'm really lucky to be able to go to Chengdu, and it was probably one of the most memorable experiences that I've had during my time at UF. So thank you for listening.